the Talk Station is proud to present The War Files. The War Files, a selection of interviews honoring our warriors of the greatest generation, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
Your name?
Shelby Freeman. I live in Morehead City and have been here for 60 years.
Where are you from originally?
Bertie County, Coleraine, North Carolina, northeastern corner of North Carolina.
Where were you when the war broke out?
I was at home with my mother.
How old were you?
I was like 22, I believe. Of course, I was at age to be drafted at the time, and I knew that the draft board was going to be after me, and I happened to notice in the News and Observer that they were going to have an examination in Raleigh for aviation cadet training. So I went up to Raleigh and took this examination, and a lot of the stuff was stuff you kind of learn on the farm, you know, about gear ratios and belts and pulleys and
Really?
a lot of common sense stuff that I was able to handle and managed to pass the examination.
So you obviously passed it. What did they tell you?
They didn't have facilities right at the time to take care of all the boys that were, and they told me to just go home and wait until I was called. And in the meantime, I had gotten a job with the Department of Agriculture as a tobacco inspector, and was working in the market in Tennessee. And when I came home at Christmas time, I had all these big brown envelopes that I'd get out every day just about from the Department of Agriculture, and I had a lot of running around to do with girls and stuff that I hadn't seen in a long time, so I didn't bother to look at all these big envelopes, you know. And I came home on Sunday night after a date, and I saw these the mail on the hall table, and I decided best I opened them up, and here was one with a voucher for a railroad fare to be in Miami Beach on January the 1st, and it was already January the 1st. So I wakened my mother and told her that what had happened, that I had orders to report to Miami Beach.
What year was this?
This was 1943.
1943.
Yeah, and so January 1943, and so I woke up a neighbor and told him I showed him the letter I had from the War Department, and I needed to be in Rocky Mount to catch the train. Rocky Mount was about 75 miles away from home, so he took me to Rocky Mount, and so I got down to Miami Beach on the 2nd, and I thought the MPs would meet me at the train, you know, and nobody was there to meet me, and I've often said that maybe they wouldn't have even known it if I never had shown up, but it was all so confusing at the time, you know. But that was where we had our boot camp type training, was at Miami Beach for about a month. And
what did that involve?
Mostly calisthenics and parading. We used the parade ground, all this golf course stuff for parade grounds down there. We stayed in a President Madison, which was right on the ocean front. They had a President Madison Hotel. They'd moved all the fine furniture out and put a bunch of bunk beds into place.
What was it like at that point? We're at war. What was the attitude, the feeling among the other cadets?
We were just like school kids, you know. Nobody complained, or other than maybe they'd issued us clothes and some of them didn't fit, and everybody had to get a haircut. And I remember some of these boys from up in New Jersey, New York, that was called up at the same time. These Italian boys with long black hair, you know, and when they got sheared, it was something else. Of course, I'd been wearing my hair in normal haircuts, you know, and they had this long black hair. And the floor would be covered with this black hair, and it was kind of amusing to me.
All right. You went to cadet school there in Miami Beach. Then where?
Right after that, when we left Miami Beach, we went to Memphis, Tennessee, to Southwestern College. And you'd appreciate this, Lockwood. There was 3 groups of us like that. The government had rented 150 colleges or universities to send we boys to. And we had to have a refresher course. It was known as a college refresher course. Mm-hmm. And it was also known as the greatest education effort that was ever pulled off in the United States. 150 colleges, and there was probably 150 of us at each one. Then we were sent to San Antonio to a cadet center there. That was the official cadet center.
When were you in San Antonio, approximately?
June, July, 43, as I recall. The main thing we had there, Lockwood, was they picked out the boys that could take it. You know, we had all kind of aptitude tests, mm-hmm. all kind of psychiatric tests. Well, we'd already had a very thorough physical, but a lot of boys hadn't been checked for, like depth perception, mm-hmm. and a lot of stuff like that. And probably more than half of the guys would be eliminated.
Really?
In trying to shape you up and discipline you, our officers constantly threatened us with washing out. Uh-huh. And that was a bad word. You're going to get washed out if you don't do so.
If you got washed out, where would you have ended up?
Well, a big part of the guys just went to gunnery school.
Okay.
They wanted to fly, and on these bombers, see, we had 6 gunners on the mm-hmm. On the plane, and practically every one of them had been former aviation cadets and got washed out for
okay.
one reason or another, and they were sent to gunnery school and turned out to be gunners.
Right. You made it through cadet school?
Yeah, got my wings, was an officer. And
did you fly any airplanes while you were in the school?
Oh, yeah.
What did you fly? What kind of airplane?
This was the primary trainer here. And
PT-19?
I hadn't had any experience in flying. We had an instructor, of course, first. As mm-hmm. you can see, it's a 2-place plane. After 7 hours, after he riding with me for 7 hours, he got out and said, "It's all yours, you go." And
you had 7 hours of flight time?
I didn't feel like I knew anything about flying, you know.
What was it like on your first solo?
What the deal was, we were nothing but kids, of course. You wouldn't tell anybody, you wouldn't admit anybody, because you're the boys around you,
right.
know, they wouldn't admit that they didn't know how, and so you just go ahead and try, and anyway, I did all right. I took the thing off and came back and landed to the instructor's satisfaction.
Where did you get sent? Where did you go?
Went to Ballinger, Texas. This one was at San Angelo, Texas, and this was Lubbock, Texas. All my training was in Texas.
So what kind of airplanes did you end up flying?
After we graduated from here, we got our wings then, and were sent to Lincoln, Nebraska, and met with our rest of our crew, and went to Boise, Idaho, and trained in B-24.
Okay, so you were a pilot on a B-24?
Yeah.
What rank were you at this point?
Second lieutenant. A thing I'd like to mention to you, Lockwood, and why I feel like I'm such a lucky person. In primary, there was 439 boys killed. In basic, there was 1,175 killed. In advanced, there was 1,888 killed. And in B-24 training, it was 850. There was a total of 4,352 fellows killed in training.
Just in training?
Just in training. 4,352, according to stuff that I've read or found out, that was supposed to be correct information. And I never did know, or on the basis where I was, at the places I never knew of one getting killed.
That probably would have dampened your day if you had discovered that.
I don't know. I just...
Amazing.
I just feel like I'm one of the lucky ones,
From the B-24 from Boise, Idaho, where did you go?
Went to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, and got on a ship and went to Blackpool, England, and joined my base where I was stationed. And
when did you arrive in England?
In October '44.
What did you do in England?
Well, I went on 25 missions, and these are the cities I went to. And
that you were bombing?
Yeah.
I'm going to read them. Gelsenkirchen, Minden, Metz, Hanau. You bombed that twice. You bombed a rail yard. Hamburg, Bielefeld, Alsenbeeken, Bingen. And I see on Christmas Eve, you've got a note here, Bitburg was on this mission, 2,000 bombers.
Yeah, there was 40 bomb groups. Each bomb group had 4 squadrons. Each one of these groups had about 50 planes. Every plane that would fly went on that mission that day. So that was how they came up with
2,000 bombers.
While I'm here, if I had gotten over there 2 months earlier, I might not have been here. Because when I got there in 44, and the first mission was November 2nd, 44, they had sent a lot of these P-51 fighters over there. They kept the German fighters away from us. The only thing we had to worry about was anti-aircraft guns. And every mission we went on, as you approach these industrial areas, they'd put it up and it looked like a bunch of blackbirds just about. And as we would approach the target area, it'd be all this puffs of black smoke in the air.
How long would you be flying from start to finish?
Most of them were 6 and 7 hours. We'd know we'd be notified that we're going to be flying the next day, and we'd get up about 4 o'clock and go to briefing, and then they'd show us these charts and tell us the city we're going to, and one of the operations officers was Jimmy Stewart at the base where I was, and he was just a regular guy. He'd been flying 24s, and he loved it. He liked that sort of thing.
And this is a tough question. Did you ever lose any airplanes in the bombing runs? Did you ever lose any friends?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. No, I didn't. I knew about some, but they weren't special friends of mine.
Understood.
For some reason, the group that I was in, 453rd Bomb Group, we flew 83 missions without a loss. And some of the groups would lose a third of their planes. It was just one of those strange things that happened in wartime. And
I want to go back to that question. What was it like after a bombing run?
Well, you'd gotten over your sweats
right
at that time. Said a lot of prayers. We'd promised that we'd be, if we get through this, I'll be a better person. I'll go to church when I get home. I'll pay the preacher, and I'll do all these things.
Where did you finish up your service? Did you automatically rotate out?
No, the war was over. You were supposed to fly about 30 missions, I think, at the time. We came back, picked up a brand new airplane, went to this big farm, open area, And as far as you could see, there was brand new airplanes there, P-38s, P-51s, B-24s, B-17. We picked up a brand new airplane and came back the northern route to Iceland, Greenland, and that way, and landed back in Boston. From there, we were sent home, allowed to come home for 30 days. While I was home on leave, they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I had orders with me at the time to go to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to train in B-29s, to go take care of the Pacific deal,
the invasion of
Japan. And it was a right interesting thing. I reported back into Fort Meade, Maryland, and it was a fairly sizable auditorium with probably 200 or 300 of us fellows that had just come back from Europe to meet that morning. And the captain walked in and he said, "How many of you guys would like to have your discharge today?" See, they didn't need all this crowd we had coming back from Europe, because at that time they pretty well fixed on pilots, but because of this Hiroshima and Nagasaki deal. Well, I was making the most money, of course, I'd ever made. I was a first lieutenant at the time and was getting flying pay in addition. I didn't have any job at home, so I called up one of my older brothers and I said, "I have a chance to get out of the service this morning. I don't have anything to do at home. What kind of advice you have?" He said, "Well, you come home, we'll find something for you to do." See, there were 6 of we boys, and they were all living at the time. I was the youngest one, and they always felt like they had to look out for me.
The World War II Memorial, you went on the honor flight. Was that the first time you had visited that memorial?
Yes, second time.
Second time.
Yeah, but it was 5 years or so ago, and I was with a group, and we didn't stay there long, and I'd always felt like I wanted to go back and see it again.
In 2000, we began building the World War II Memorial. Why did it take so long, do you think?
I don't know.
What was your attitude when you came back from the war? Were you looking for any kind of memories or remembrance?
No, it's just like I never crossed my mind to being a hero. I just felt like I was the luckiest guy ever been. What sort of breaks my heart? It sounds like I'm bragging a little bit when I say it, but I just felt so insignificant among some of these guys. They were brilliant boys. They were good-looking, well-educated, and to think all that many of these fine specimens of American boys were killed for, somehow, to me, no reason. These damn generals over there insisted on keep going. You know, they started out in 43, and from 43 up until, we'll say, September 44, before these P-51s got over there in quantity, they just slaughtered the boys. They'd lose 20 and 30 and 40 planes every mission, and that was 10 guys on the plane. I just don't know why we all didn't get killed. It's a miracle.
Shelby, thank you very much. I appreciate this.
You've been listening to The War Files, a selection of interviews honoring our warriors of the greatest generation, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. The War Files is a TalkStation presentation.